else could see. And it was interesting to find out that, she had told me, well, no, not everybody is seeing what you're seeing. So let's kind of keep this between the two of us. And until, maybe at some point, I mean, she was very, she was very, and it didn't come until later on when I went through school and everything else, got married, and I actually moved to Europe because my husband was in the military, and started seeing even more than I had prior to. It was always there, but I kind of had a way of controlling it more. But after I started having children, your brain gets messed up anyway because you're taking care of kids. But and it just started, there was a massive influx. And then when my sister passed away with her husband, it became extra strong. And after that, it just became, explosive to the point where there was no controlling it. You were just seeing things and people 24/7. And, I've been doing this for almost 30 years now. And 4 children and 5 grandchildren later, it's still going strong.
Wow.
So,
Do you find that
going strong?
find that perhaps once your sister had that tragic accident, that because someone you love so much was on the other side, you just felt it even more because she was reaching for you?
I think so. And that she, it's interesting. Karma is real. And she used to, make fun of me at times, and not in a negative way, but, there's always 75% of reality when somebody says something to you. And so I never took it personally, but it was interesting that the minute that she crossed over, she's in my bedroom in Germany and, telling me, well, you were right. And, it was extremely gratifying. Not in the fact that, she crossed over, but she was just, my sister was hilarious. And even in this moment, she's in a great place, but she would make it fun, and I'm going to end up, dealing with the loss and how sad and it was horrible, but she was what got me through it and helped me to get my mother through it and my father through it.
Yeah, and, especially.
And it was because it was for them, losing a child is just, I can't even imagine. But it really ended up working for everybody. Because I had 4 other siblings that were still here. And, they may, some don't necessarily agree or believe, but that's okay. They've all come to shows that I've done, and they've all, been a part of this. And so I have great support, and it's helped me to keep going.
That's fantastic. How did your friends react to this when you started? I'm just curious because I went through this.
Well, it's funny because I got married 2 years after I got out of high school. So, and I moved right away to different states, and my husband was in the service. So I never really saw much of my friends. And over the years, I think I have, of the 5 of us, I had 4 really great friends in high school and other friends, but the 4 friends that I was with all the time have all crossed over.
Oh my gosh.
So there's not really much that I could say about them other than I've seen them and they look great, but they're all over there. It was my sister and then 2 sisters and then my best friend have all crossed over. So
wow. That's a lot of loss.
That's a lot of loss. It was. It was very hard.
It is.
But there's still some people that I'm friends with, and through the powers of Facebook and Instagram, I can still have comments, see how their lives are going and whatnot. But yeah, so in that respect, there's not much I could say, about them. But
well, how about for grieving? Because I know Amelia suffered a loss, of her father, and I've suffered losses in my life. And as mediums, for me, I personally find it easier because I can see them and still communicate. but there, not a lot of people look at it the same way. What are your thoughts on that? Did
I
it make
agree
it
with
easier for you?
It does. It does. I mean, did I feel the pain of it? Absolutely. I mean, I lost my dad too, and I was actually in the room with him when he left.
So was I.
And,
That's hard.
Yeah, and
That's really hard.
he ended up standing at the foot of the bed next to me, and because of the cancer that he had had shrunk quite a bit because it was a terminal bone cancer. But he was standing next to me, back to his 6'2". Nice and lean, and he had a basketball because he was a sports person and he was a coach. And he had his ball, and he says, "Well, see ya."
Wow.
And I just said, "Well,
a little
don't you feel
harsh.
better?" He goes, I don't even remember it.
Wow.
And he said, and I thought, well, that's the best gift, Dad. And he said, "I'll be dropping in," and he has. Periodically, from time to time, he stops by, and I know two of my grandchildren have seen him, and it's interesting because his name was Charlie, and one of them had said to me one night, the next morning, I saw Charlie last night, and I said, "Oh, really? Who is that?" "Well, isn't that your dad?" I said, "Oh, that is Dad."
All right.
Yeah, but I mean, kids can see.
They can.
And they were quite young at the time, so they newly arrived within the first 5 or 6 years. They remember a lot still. But yeah, to get back to your question, Michelle, it's hard because you can't hug them like you used to.
No, that's true. I think it is the physical that people can't get past, I guess.
Right.
It's
you're
also
exactly right.
The routine, like, when your father's ill, or like my dad in a home, or any loved one that is somewhere where you're constantly actively a part of their well-being and their life. It's all of a sudden it's like, well, this is weird. I haven't heard from the home today. And then it clicks. You're reminded again. That's what I think was the hardest, but content that he's in a better place, and that he's reunited with my brother and my sister and my mother, which is really, I'm happy for that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that they're okay. It's always harder for those that are left behind. And, even, I don't, it's difficult sometimes, I think, because I remember when my sister passed away and my dad had to run down to the market for something that morning, and somebody had said to them, because they were hit by a young man, decided to drive through a stop sign and turn his lights out, playing a game.
Nice.
And the man that came up to my dad had said, "Well, you should see his family. His family's a mess." And my father was so angry with him, this man, because we're the ones that had just lost, and this boy's fine, but his parents are a mess over it. Because what would the town think? And it was just kind of, and I'm not there. I'm in Germany, so I can't help, and I can't get home to be with them because we can't get a humanitarian. It's a form that we get to, go away for emergencies or go home, and I couldn't get one.
Yeah.
My husband couldn't. Yeah. So it was difficult. I couldn't be there. And so for me, seeing her in spirit at first almost felt like maybe I'm dreaming.
Right.
Oh, so surreal, because you didn't actually see her body.
It's actually real. This can't be real.
Yeah.
It's not real. It's got to be somebody else. And and inevitably you realize that it's the truth. And it's acceptance. And it's not living without them, because they'll always be with you. It's just learning to live without their physical presence. They're still a part of you. They're just not physically in front of you. They may be spiritually right beside you. They're just not physically in front of you anymore.
Yeah.
And that's not really, I mean, it's hard for gifted people sometimes to get their head around that. I mean, can you imagine somebody who hasn't tapped into their abilities at all?
Right.
I mean, I've seen people go completely over the edge and bring in all this negative energy and activity because they want so desperately to get a message from a loved one, and they just take whatever they can get.
Yeah, they do. I've
scary.
had that too, Michelle. I have. I mean, they'll, and it's hard because you know that that's not it, and you don't know. At times, you're just like, I just want them to feel better.
Right.
So, but I mean, when they start to do the negative thing, that's just sometimes when I don't know. I have a hard time with that.
It becomes extremely unhealthy when they're seeking out psychic readings weekly or monthly. It becomes, for my opinion anyways, it becomes very unhealthy.
No, I agree.
Well, you're not really healing, right?
Right.
What's it? It's just harder to heal.
Right.
It really is. And you almost feel guilty as a medium that you can communicate. You almost feel guilty, and it's hard because they don't always come around either. It's not like you can call them and they just show up. You know, a lot of people that are not in this field think, oh, well, you can just call them in. No, I don't have a direct line. Yeah.
We're not conjuring, you know, we're
no, absolutely. Well said. Yeah.
Right. It's like, that's what I tell people. I can't conjure anybody up, and I can't guarantee who's going to be here. I can't guarantee anything.
That's a big one with
the message
with
I get,
clients.
I will give to you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sitters have a problem with, because they watch television, and what they don't realize is that these mediums that are on TV, you're getting the best of all their reads. You're not getting the stuff that ended up on the floor. You know, you're not getting the ones that the father didn't come through, or the husband didn't come through, or the child didn't come through. You're not seeing those. You're seeing the ones that were like hit dead on, maybe one out of how many?
50, 60.
Yeah. So it's like, just because you have that time doesn't, you know, it doesn't mean that they're going to come through. They'll come through when they need to come through.
Right.
You know.
Absolutely.
But
I agree with you 100%.
Thank you. When did you start working? I see you work criminal cold cases, which I do as well. When did you start that, and how did you start?
Well, I was working, I had a radio show for 10 years here in Portland. And I apparently some of the police force in the city listened to the show. And I would just have callers call in, and we'd read them, you know, over the phone. And apparently there had been a homicide in the city, and one of the detectives had called me and said, we're just running, the case is cold, we just don't know. And so the victim's mother was sent to my office, and she brought a bag of the young lady's things, and I was just, I've never done that before. I've never had to really touch anything to get a visual. You know, usually it's just a voice, or, you know, with the mother there, it was pretty clear that she would show up because she walked right in behind her mother. And she was there, and she was explaining that, you know, at least her mother knew when she left my office that her daughter was indeed had passed away, and that she was okay, because she just, you know, I could tell her mother what she was wearing, what her outfit looked like, and it was, you know, confirmed that that's what she had last been seen in. And then, you know, the detective called me the next day and asked me what my feelings were on the case. And I just listened to her. You know, the minute I talked to him, she showed back up and was explaining to me where she was, the first name of the gentleman who did this to her.
Excellent.
And not the gentleman that they thought might have done it.
That is fantastic.
So it ended up, she had said to me, and they have to hurry because they need to find me before the first snow falls. And I got a call one day, and I kind of had, you know, didn't really follow too much up on it because, you know, I watched the news, and if anything had been on there, I would have seen it. Any updates, I didn't hear from him. And I heard from him the day the snowfall started to fall here, but she was in my living room, and she told me to look outside because I'm on the phone with him, and she said, and the snow was falling, and then she disappeared. But they did find her where she had told me. I don't want to say where she told me they were. They did find. Yeah.
That's excellent. You give the family closure. It's not always what they want to hear, but it's I've seen families looking for their children for years, and it's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking. And the thing is, you know, the show that I did, psychic detectives and psychic investigators, you know, it gets shown all the time, and I really have such a backlog of those types of cases that I'm just not even taking on new ones at this point in time, because I'm trying to keep up with the ones that I already have, and it's very hard to tell someone I can't get to it at this time, because you know, it's their baby or their daughter or their child, whoever their loved one is that's missing. You know,
it's hard.
Have to tell, oh my gosh, I literally have a pile, and I just can't get to it. You know, I will tell them as soon as I have an opening, I will let you know. But in the meantime, I pray they find that person, you know, healthy and well.
Well, a good thing to do too is, I used to work on a team, so what I do is I revert back to them. I pick the ones that are the strongest, and I will pass. I just got one on the weekend, and I said to her, she's someone on my Facebook page, and her niece is missing, and I said to her, I'm working on an 11-year cold case personally with the mother and the detectives, and I can't take time away from it, besides all the time that I spend with Michelle working the malevolent cases. So I ask permission, and then I just continue and pass it along, because this way they can get something, because the longer it takes to get on it, the colder it gets, even more difficult for mediums, because you can't pick up on the energy, you know, and God forbid that person is in more than one place, and I won't, you know, go into details about how that happens. It's a difficult thing. So I try to get as many other people under my, like, in my contact list as possible. If I find that they're really good at something, and they're really good at remote viewing or really good at working cold cases, I ask them if I can rely on them, and that's what I do to share it up. I know, because they recognize you and they've seen you, so they really want you, and it's hard. But you can only do so much. Otherwise, you can't do justice to the people you're working for right now.
Exactly. And you know? I mean, you know, in these cases are, you know, first come, first served basis.
Absolutely.
It's not about, well, you know, she's 5 and that breaks my heart. But it's still a missing person.
Everybody's somebody's daughter. That's what I always say, you know. But if they're in the process of that they just went missing, do you take them at all, or is that something to let known, or is that something that you just have to pass? If it's like in the last 24 hours, that's a hot trail.
Yeah, that is, and that's something that the police and everybody else should be working on. That's not something that you need to come to me for. Not yet, you know. I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, there's a lot of cold cases here. That are unsolved, and I think they even have a cold case team that works for the police here, and I'm just I work on my own, but it's a lot. It's a lot to do.
It is, and unfortunately, they always come to a psychic route last. That's usually the last resort. Like, what do we do now? You know, but
I mean,
it's taxing.
I was working on a case where a plane went down in the 1930s and shot down by soldiers here in New England, and they've never been able to find the plane. And but the thing is what they also is harder to find, and I'm trying to get the point across to people, is when you've been in the ground or become a part of the ground for so many years, you know, it's almost virtually impossible to find some people because their DNA, but you can get, you know, Godiva dogs or things like that to sniff out DNA. DNA could come out in trees, can come out in on plants in areas that, you know, you think the crash site would be in. So that's one of the things I've been working on lately is this crash site. And it's you know, we haven't even found, I mean, the plane, we think has landed in a lake, but we'll see. And it was a very popular artist and actor, I guess. I don't even remember his name at the moment, but he was a passenger in this plane, and it's for this gentleman.
They need to bring in forensic scientists though for something like that, because you have to study. Yeah,
so old.
It's all about the currents and the sonar.
Exactly. And but all these people have done it, and it's literally never. It's one of those. I wouldn't even call it a cold case. It's an unsolved mystery. You know, it's almost like the Bermuda Triangle, where planes and boats go missing. And are never found. It's kind of like that situation. That's how I'm kind of looking at it as, well, it's a Bermuda Triangle up in New England, and it's a bunch of lakes, but nothing has ever been found. So it's an interesting dynamic.
Well, they have triangles and vortices all over the world, you know,
absolutely.
If I think if people spent too much time looking for that, as opposed to, let's say, a fresh case which has a potential of saving a life or actually finding that answer, you know, that unsolved mystery isn't going to go anywhere. It's going to
exactly. It's not changing in 30 years, that's for sure.
Exactly. I feel for anyone who's lost someone. You know, people go missing all the time, and sometimes explainable, sometimes not, and it makes it really, really hard. But you would think, to make things a bit easier, that even if a spirit's been gone, let's say in this case in the plane, that one would just come through and, you know, be like, okay, tell me what you know, like, where are you, what happened? And you think it would make it a little easier. So if they don't come through, is it because they're you know, stuck in that spot? Have they reincarnated? Have they you know?
Yeah, those are all the things that you go through, you know, and at this point, you know, we're I'm kind of just, it's an unsolved case.
Yeah, it's a tough one, eh?
It's a tough one. It really is. It's very tough. So I'm you know, I have quite a bit, but and you know, and with lockdown, how did you guys do in lockdown? Were you guys good?
We're still in it. We're just getting out on Fridays.
We're still in plague jail. Yes, we are.
We're in Southern Ontario.
Okay. See, I thought it said New Orleans.
Our radio station is in New Orleans. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys
they're doing fine. They're doing fine.
New Orleans
still
booming. Yes.
Partying in New Orleans, but for how long, we don't know.
Yeah, I've got my first hair appointment next week. Thank God for my magic fingers that I'm able to do it on my own. But but I can't. I'm not cutting my own hair. So
no, don't do that. Don't go in that direction. It's never a good answer, right?
Not even when it was on the exam. I used to do hair a long time ago. So for me to buy a bucket of bleach and do my hair and dye it, Michelle's the only one who heard me complaining the whole time. I gotta mix these 3 colors, but whatever. But yeah, it's okay. It's been a long time, you know. It's not like
it's been a very long time. I had no idea you guys were still in lockdown over there, or it's easing for you. But we've been out of it since, well, I guess we started in May and we're fully out of it now. But I mean, now the cases are coming back, so I don't, you know.
Yeah.
We went down in March and are just going into stage 3, and we still have restrictions.
Oh, sure. Well, I don't think you guys are stupid that you have restrictions over there, because sometimes I think we came out of it. I guess the world will see how this plays out, but I mean,
I think everybody's learning with all of it, right? We're all learning. None of us know anything about it.
Yeah, exactly. I think so too. Everybody's learning, and everybody's got to do what's best for them. So
you can't even get me started. So I'm done.
No, I won't. I mean, there's so much. It's just so much.
I wanted to ask you, for those that are listening who are just finding their gifts and realizing that, hey, I can do this. What kind of things do you suggest in them to prepare before doing an actual reading, and what do you recommend for them to learn more about themselves?
I think, you know, I think everybody needs I do believe that everybody was born with something. We all have a unique innate ability that we I don't want to say that we have, but a lot of people, from the minute that we're born, we're being bombarded with information coming from living relatives and people that love us and telling us that this is right, this is wrong, and talking that gift right out of us. Because no one's born, hating or negative or has any phobias about anything. You're born loving. That's the way it is. And you're also born remembering, because you are everyone you've ever been. So there is an ability. And I think if one feels like I've never been in touch with that, I've never had anything, I don't have an ability. Well, you do. So what I would suggest is, and it's very simple, there are certain techniques via meditation, through deep relaxation, whatever, you find, and you have to kind of play around with it. There's journaling, there's automatic writing, and it's just like anything else. If you want to be an all-star athlete, it's practice, 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 practice. Even if you just want to be athletic, it's practice, practice. This doesn't come automatically back to you. Now, for some who've known their ability and used it a little bit or understood it, that it was there for most of their lives, it's not going to be as difficult. If you want to make it stronger, just use those techniques that work for you. But you've got to play around with it and practice and use what feels best for you. For me, it was I have to go to a meditation, and I'll go and do yoga, or I'll go for a run. I'll do something just to clear my head of them, because there's so many in there.
Mm-hmm.
But for other people who want that, and I don't know why they would want to, see or communicate more. I usually tell people to pay very, very close attention to their dreams, and before they go to sleep at night, to try to calm their mind and kind of just try to turn things off and go through like a 10-step process of relaxation from your head all the way to your toes. And once you're asleep, pay attention to your dreams. The people that you see in your dreams. A lot of times you may be looking at past lives. But the person that you're seeing, you recognize, but perhaps not in this life.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just all kinds of different things to look for. Look for a pet. Animals often show up. But it's important to figure out what you think your ability might be, and then focus on just that. Don't worry if you don't have a psychic ability. Maybe you're an animal intuitive. Maybe you're an empath. Maybe you're all, something else. Focus on that one. Don't worry if you're not a medium. Don't worry about that.
Well, how do you separate the dreams for the visitations when you're talking about loved ones and pets and so on?
Because in the dream state, souls, it's very easy for a soul to come through.
Right.
Because also they don't, it's unlike, the three of us, we can see them walking around daily. But for the majority of humanity, they could see things in dream states. And the soul knows this, and the soul that's crossed over knows this. And oftentimes when somebody crosses over, it's usually within the first week or two, somebody will just get, and I always call it their cameo. They get the cameo appearance from their loved one, popping into a dream, and you just see kind of their head in like a cameo look, and they look great and healthy and fine, and just letting you know, I'm fine. It's all going to be okay. I'm good. And that's it. And then they may see periodically as, they're starting to come out of the process of grieving, and there is no time limit on that. We all grieve differently, and there's no right or wrong way to that. But, they will themselves, and periodically it's going to be different. So to be aware of that, to be aware of dreams can oftentimes be a gateway for the spirit world to come and visit. So pay attention to them. And I also get people that will say, but I don't dream. I don't remember my dreams. Well, that's something you can work on.
Well, see, that's where I find visitations tend to be extremely vivid. You can remember every detail, conversations with your loved ones, Whereas dreams tend to be very elusive. You get bits and pieces of things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think,
At least for me. At least for
right.
me.
No, that makes sense. But for
Right.
people that don't see like we do,
Yes.
any little glimpse of someone that they love that they just lost it can be the difference between going to bed that night with a feeling of she's okay. She's okay. That was
Right.
her. I saw her. I know I saw her.
Right.
That's enough, for them. Or I saw my dog. There she is. I see her. And it might have been just a split second. And they wake up in the morning, but they feel a sense of they're okay. And it helps them, even if it just helps them get through a few moments throughout the day, it helps them.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting the glimpse. I think there's a difference between the two. With a visitation, oh my gosh, yes, what you said. But with the dream state, I think most people just want a glimpse of that person. And a lot of times that's how they'll get through.
Right. Right.
telling me.
That's
It's not me
excellent.
saying, this is what you need to do. I have no say in that. I can barely do my own thing. So I just need to help them, you know, and the only way they can do that is if their guides come through, and then I will help them with that. But, you know, to be all honest, I don't always have all the answers, and they don't always have all the answers. You know, sometimes you kind of have to do the work.
That's a great point. I'm glad that you said that, because oftentimes we'll get people who come to us like, well, can you tell me this? It's like sometimes you're not meant to know. It's a lesson.
Right.
And I'm so glad that you said that. I love spiritual counseling, by the way.